I'm very happy to be here. I'm very honored and proud to be here because I think you have a great conference here, and I'm very glad that we are from our tiny country are apparently setting an example for you. So I'm going to tell you the story of what we as a museum did, reinventing the museum and how we deal with digitization, what we did with our collection to make available to all. I'm not sure what what's happening with this one. Let me start. As Emmy told you, we reopened the museum 5 years ago, the 13th of April. We had major renovations, and we were open, but just as a tiny part. And this was a grand reopening. And let me show you how that went and what has happened in the latest 5 years.
Proud to be here with some of the Dutch masters who I studied in school. Dank u wel.
We're the Museum of the Netherlands, and we were founded in the late 19th century, and we have a collection which tells the story of the Dutch art and Dutch history. And our collection consists of 1 million items by now, and it's telling the story of everything of our Dutch masters. The core collection consists of Rembrandt, Vermeer. We have a Van Gogh, and even a Frans Hals. And I was very pleased to see this exhibition in this hall by Rieblink, and I saw a piece of art by Frans Hals. And I also saw another piece of art, Maria Casati. We have her on show at this moment in our exhibition High Society. But that is what we wanted to do, is tell the story of the Netherlands. And we used to be very popular for international tourists and not that popular for the Dutch. And that was very difficult for us because we wanted to reinstall the pride. We wanted to make the Dutch proud of what we have. And we did a research in 2012, and then we discovered that half of the Dutch did not know that we had a Rembrandt's Night Watch, and we thought that is a huge problem. So we're a national museum, and we can't relate to our own people. So we thought of ways of changing that and changing our whole museum, not only the building, but also we looked at alternative ways of reaching out to our audiences, and we started digitizing our collection. Anyway, for our research purposes, but also for our exhibitions. And then the idea became that we could make it available to the public, and to connect and to leverage our collection. And that was our main philosophy and our main task when we reopened the museum. How can we relate to all those people, and not only the Dutch, but how can we make it more accessible? Because a lot of people are having difficulties visiting a museum, think it's only for art lovers, you have to know a lot. And we wanted to change that. And we wanted people to be as proud as of the Rijksmuseum as they are of the national football, the soccer team. And the times have changed because they are not very popular right now, the Dutch, but at that time they were very good. So, but it changed our philosophy of how we organized and how we worked as a museum. And we tried to look at ourselves and identify what makes it so distant. How can we change that? And how can we change the behavior? And how can we change the policies of the visits? And one of the things is that we wanted people to stimulate to actively look at our art and being creative themselves. So not only look at pieces of paint, as some might call it, and then that's why we started to make it possible for people to draw at our exhibitions and to draw in the museum. And I'll show you a video of our Start Drawing campaign. Oh, sorry. Can you start it?
At the Rijksmuseum, we've been seeing more and more people drawing lately. And we couldn't be more delighted, because drawing is all about looking. Drawing means you see more. In fact, when you use your own eyes to look, and not your camera or your phone, your amazement is much greater. So to everyone who wants to come and draw, the Rijksmuseum says, welcome.
And basically, lots of museums have difficulties with people taking pictures. And it's allowed at Rijksmuseum to use your phone or to use a camera, because we thought people are doing it anyway. And the way the world has changed, because we're all looking through our iPhones to see, if we explore a city, to see the new things. So we better embrace that development rather than forbid it and have people an experience they wouldn't have normally. So you have to take it into account. The world is changing and you need to be with that. So we decided we allow people to take pictures as long as they don't use their flashlight and they don't disturb other visitors. But it's a way. What is better than having taking a picture and having a memory of your visit, or what is better to have if you have your children in the gallery and they are having fun? So what is better than allow them to take something home? So everybody has something of the Rijksmuseum in their home, and we don't believe that it is very. When you talk about taking pictures, you talk about a reproduction. And museums are temples of the original, and they are talking about authenticity. And of course, the real works of art have such quality that we believe that they trigger people and they have hopefully inspire and emotionate people. But if you take a picture or make a reproduction, we don't believe that it is bad per se. And we think it can add a new meaning, and it can, and then I quote Walter Benjamin. It was a German philosopher, and he said in 1936 that when you reproduce a piece of art, it reactivates something. So it's adding something new to a piece of art. And that thought in itself is a very interesting one, because if you look at it that way, then thousands new pieces of art are being made in the Rijksmuseum every day by all those visitors taking pictures. And it's not new, because all artists in all ages have drawn inspiration from other artists before them. Here you see an example of an etch plate, and this is made by Hercules Segers, and you have probably not heard of Hercules Segers. I guess you not. Someone? No? Yeah, of course, you're Dutch. But Hercules Segers was in his time very, very famous, and it's very funny that he didn't got the fame which Rembrandt got later. He was very provocative. He was very innovative. He did things that no one else did before. He reworked his edge plates, so he reused them, what people normally didn't do. And he started to paint at his edge plates, and he started to make prints, and he used all tablecloth pieces, so his wife wasn't very happy with that. But he was a very important artist at that time. And Rembrandt, who was, I think, was born 60 years later than this Hercules Segers, was a great admirer of this artist. And he had, I think, 7 or 8 edge plates, original edge plates in his possession. And Rembrandt started to rework this work of Hercules Segers. I'll show you. This is the version Rembrandt made of it. So he made a new print on the existing edge plate, and he keeps the landscape the same, but he changes the figures and the angel, I think it's Tobias or something. So even Rembrandt got inspiration by others and reworked it. And the same goes for the temples of Greek, which were reused in Rome and things like that. So it's of all ages. So who are we to forbid that? And who are we to forbid that in the museum? And I think the night watch is the most photographed object in our collection. I talked about digitizing our collection and the whole digitization process. We thought we were going to do that anyway. And then we thought, why not make it available to a general public, make it available to all? And we are the National Museum, and we think we are the custodian of the collection, but the collection itself belongs to you all, to all the Dutch and to everybody in the world. So we're only taking care of it. And that idea, and making it as simple as possible for people to access it. So we said, why not disclose it on our new website? And with one press on a button, with one click, you can get straight access to our pieces of art. And we digitized them in a very high quality, so you can use it for professional use as well. And then we thought how to do that, and we thought we wanted to make it for free. And we could do that because the copyrights have been expired, and the images are under Creative Commons, the CC0. So we were able to give them away for free, so to lower all the barriers and to make our collection available to everybody. And it's not only for personal use, but then we thought we would love the idea if people are going to reuse it and make new things of it, and making money of it, maybe. And then we thought, well, let's take that for free as well. And it was quite of a process, because at first we thought, well, maybe we have to ask for a fee, and we made a business case. And then we thought, well, it might be better if we just skip that and make it and stimulate, and instead stimulate people to use that instead of charging them a fee. Because the idea is that if you are giving away your images, and if you are going to giving away your collection, you allow people to create more and new things, and we give our old masters a meaning in today's world. So we give them a new relevance, and we can't do that by ourselves, but we let our community do that. So we disclosed all our pictures on our new website. We released that website 5 years ago. It was a responsive website, so we made it with it was accessible to all means, to all devices. And at that time, the iPad or the tablet emerged. So we thought it was a great idea that you have your collection 24/7, wherever you are, whether you are in the Netherlands or in Brazil or in Canada or everywhere, you can look at our collection. How fun is that? And that was the idea. And we were not the first museum that did that, because other museums disclosed their collection online as well. But we're the first museum that did that in such an user-friendly, easy way. You just go to a website, click on the image, and you can download it right away. And we called it Rijksstudio. And Rijksstudio refers to Rijksmuseum, and Rijks means state. And the studio was the idea of having your own studio, making your own collection, having your own set. Oh. And here you see our landing page. You see on our website the different items in a visual timeline. And they are organized by several indicators. So we have organized them by painter, but also by theme. And you have the sets that users have been made. And I'm going to show you some examples. And here you see clearly the inspiration from Pinterest, because clicking and making the boards, pinning the boards and making your own collection, that's exactly what's happening here. And here you see the landing page of Rijksstudio. We have over 400,000 Rijksstudio sets. So articles or collection that have been made by people themselves. And you see here, I'm not sure if this point, it doesn't work. We have approximately 5 million downloads right away. So, and you see the sets of the Rijksmuseum made by the Rijksmuseum and the sets by other users together. So that's some kind of a democratic principle. That is not only us as a museum which decides what is worth exhibiting, but also it's what normal people like you and me would do. And this is the idea. You see here an image, and the image is high resolution, and it enables you to zoom in. So you can zoom in and see the tiniest detail, the smallest paintbrush. You see everything. And the funny thing is that you see more when you are looking at Rijksstudio than you would have. You can see in the museum, because at the museum you can't get closer at some time because of the security and the safety of our collection. But on this website you can have a look at the images. You can search for more information about the collection. It's a whole collection registration is behind that. You can zoom in, and at the right-hand side you see some buttons. You can share the pieces you like with others. You can share it with your friends. But you can also download it to your own, for your own use, and you can save details. You don't have to save the entire image, but you can also zoom in and take a small piece of it. So that's the idea. You perfectly adapt a piece of art for how you would like to have it. And the funny thing is that the role of the museum changes, because when you allow people to make their own collection, in fact you're saying that everybody will be able to act as a curator or as a museum director. And here you see the Rijksstudio set made by a woman, and it's in Dutch, but it's called Bold Man. And she selected all the pictures of the man she thought were very handsome, bold, or whatever. And the funny thing is that she included our previous director, Wim Pijbes, as well. Which was very funny, I thought myself. But someone else collects details of the left bottom side of a picture, which is very special, right? Wouldn't thought of it myself, but you can see how interesting it is. You see more things, you see other things. You see things you would have never thought before. And that's what the digitization and the possibilities of sitting behind your laptop or tablet or phone give you. So you have extra facilities, you have extra ways of adapting the collection to your needs and to your interests. But it also attracts new people. It attracts new users, people who would never have come to the museum, people who don't like visiting museums, and they are there, and it's perfect. We don't have to change them, we don't have to convert them. But the funny thing is that a lot of people are active on the internet, and on the internet, I think the word cat is one of the most searched items for, and then people see how many cats we have in our collection. Beginning this year, we had another innovation, and that's possible after 5 years, I think. But we had a new Rijksmuseum app, and we used to have an app before, and you could do our multimedia tours with it, and we had it for free. But we thought, isn't it nice to combine those two, this Rijksstudio set into our app. So in our app, you have a more seamless experience. You have your mobile with you every time. I saw one of the panel members carrying her phone on stage. So it is different, because 10 years ago, you wouldn't have thought of taking your phone onto the stage. But the world has changed, and everybody takes his phone with him. So we decided to include the Rijksstudio interface in the app. So whenever you are, when you're taking the train or the bus, you can look at our collection. It's free available, and all the features of this Rijksstudio you have just within your reach. And we think it's important because it extends the experience of our visitors. And apart from attracting new ones, it's also, when you prepare your visit, you can have a look at Rijksstudio. You can use Rijksstudio when you are at the museum, but also afterwards you have a memory of your stay, and you can share your memory with others as well. And here's how it looks. 3 basic tasks. You can still take the tours. You can have a look at Rijksstudio. And we have a third bar, and you can buy your tickets online as well. And the third one, we want to, when you talk about future developments, we want to elaborate that and make a whole e-commerce set behind that. But that's our recent change. So we combine the collection and the service, and which is very nice. The tours in this app have an automatic wayfinding as well, because the building is quite complicated, and but we found a system that guides you in 3 steps to the place you want to go to. So it's all about making our collection more accessible, more inclusive to all. And here's an example of our app, and what's important is that mobile. We have a full mobile-first strategy. So all our collection items and all our Rijksstudio items are designed for mobile use. But apart from collectioning items, we wanted to to stimulate people to use our collection as well. And here you see an example. Droog Design made a tattoo inspired by our 17th century collection by the Heem. And this is a way of reinstating our old masters into today's world. I show you a clip with some other examples.
Take the night bus with me tonight. Rush of broken hearts played by a lonely band. We both got so much to lose, but here in your arms, it's hell. I could wait for you now, but not forever.
I was surprised by how happy I was.
No, that's why it's just because
Down by the harbor in the dark.
it's not a star.
And here you see some other examples with partners, because the Rijksmuseum has a lot of sponsors and a lot of partners who are working together with us, reaching new people. And this is an example of Heineken, one of our main sponsors. And these beer bottles they are designing new ones every new season, I guess. And those premiums are the first sold out in a collection. And sometimes we can't sell them in our shop because we don't have the license to sell alcohol, but otherwise we would have done it, I guess. Here you see another one made by Droog Design, a reinterpretation of a 17th century pieces of art at the Salone del Mobile in Milan. So here you can see the new meaning of the 17th century, so the new creations. Or on our vans. And this is an interesting project. During the reopening of the Rijksmuseum, we established that a lot of people don't know anything about the museum and don't know anything about our collection. And I think it was too for the highbrow and only for the people, for well-educated people. And then we thought we wanted to change something. We wanted to have a discussion at the kitchen table, and we want to make it very easy. So no lengthy stories, no complicated things, but just our images on the milk cartons and with just one line of text. And it was not about that people should know everything about the painter, about the painting itself or the context of the art history behind that. But it's only, what do you think of this piece of art, and what do you feel with that? And we thought it's better to focus on the emotions that people have when looking at art than asking them to know everything. And that was a very successful project together with one of our largest groceries stores in the Netherlands. But we also installed a design competition because we wanted to stimulate people to get creative, but we wanted to facilitate them as well. And we started this initiative in 2014, and we had 3 editions since, and in 2019 we have the 4th. And this Rijksstudio Award is an open call for everybody. So everybody can join, everybody can send in their creations as long they use images from Rijksstudio. So it's specifically not for artists alone, but also for people who are kids at school or everybody who likes to be creative. And we did that 3 times now. And we got it was very nice to see. This is the winners of the last year's editions, and it was a very nice because we got entries from all over the world. I show you some creations. This is for the winners of the first round in 2014. People made a makeup set based on the DNA colors of various paintings. And the idea of us was in the beginning that the winner, the product that the winner would make, we would produce that and we would sell that in our shop to make it also something worth for the artist themselves. And in this case it was a bit difficult because we're in a museum and producing a makeup item seems to be very complex and you need to apply with all kinds of regulations. So we didn't sell this one at our shop, but the next, and this one is the winner of the 2nd edition. And this is a book bracelet made by 300, based on 300 etches by Rembrandt. And they all depict the hands of the details of the etches by Rembrandt, all the hands of which he made, and they bind it in a book. And they use traditional binding techniques and traditional gold lacquer techniques. And they thought it's a wearable, so it's actually a very good example of how art and the new can be combined. And this one was in the Salone del Mobile as well, and it's now, I thought Cooper Hewitt has purchased it, and the people, it's a mother and daughter who make that, and the people are looking of producing a line which is for consumers. So we are very curious how that goes, because we are happy to help them. The last edition of this Rijksstudio Award was won by a guy from Belarus. You see him at the right-hand side, and he made a set of sleeping masks. And he has never been at the Netherlands, but he only knew Rijksmuseum by its digital collection. So it's a proof of that by digitization you can reach other audiences and you can reach everybody all over the world. And if we talk about this competition, we were very proud because we got a lot of entries, almost over 2,600 entries from all over the world, the majority international. And we had also a public voting system. So the beginning, we have an expert panel, we have an expert jury who judges all the entries. But additionally, we had a public voting system as well, and people could vote from the top 10 finalists online, and it got pretty successful. And it was very funny because we saw that the judgment of the general public was completely opposite to the opinion of the jury, because the jury liked, of course, the sleeping masks, and they were popular with the general public, but the general public really loved these Delft blue lenses. And the concept behind that was, how would the world look like if we had Delft blue lenses? How would it change our view upon the world? So it's and it's difficult to produce, I can imagine that too, but the concept was so powerful that a lot of people liked that. And for us as a museum, it's important to see this, because it's not all about our taste and what we as experts think is good. It's also about what other people think. And it might be completely different, and that proved it. I show you some video of some other entries of this Rijksstudio Award, so you can see what people make of our collection. Okay, yes. That butter dish is a very popular one, right? I always hear those reactions. But here you can actually see what you can do with your art and transferring it to today's world. And you see how people can get creative with that. And last year I was in Milan, invited by the Milan Design Academy. And it was a cooperation together with George Brown as well. And it was a video game camp. And then all the students designed, and maybe some of them are here right now. But you see in few days what people can do with our collection, how they can create complete new stories and can create complete new worlds. And tomorrow in the panel discussion, we are going to show some examples and discuss about that, I guess. But that's the powerful thing of giving your art away for free. And what made it, in our opinion, a success is that we focused it completely on our core, on our collection, and on disclosing our collection to others. But only the medium has changed. So we're not only using our museum building, but also our website and digital platforms. And then you are able to share it more with others. And you are able to create new stories, because I think that's all where it goes, what is relevant here, creating the stories behind the pieces of art. That's exactly the same what you see happening at the Reblink installation in this entrance hall. You see a new story, a possible world, so it makes it closer than it would have been just explaining the art historical significance, which is there obviously, but and for us as a museum, was it important to address new people, and also people, we call them the culture snackers, people who like nice things, who are online a lot, but just like nice things, nice designs, nice colors, nice patterns, and they all are welcome to have a look at our collection, because when you take your time and you investigate a piece of Rembrandt closely, you see new things, you discover how brilliantly he painted lace and painted fabrics. So if you take the time and you can look closely, you can see completely new things. And what's better to do that online, having a cup of tea in your time, when you are up to it. And we believe that by adding an extra layer to this collection, we can get a deeper engagement, and we can have people, allow people to have a deeper and longer lasting experience. And that's very beneficial to our brand, of course, because people will have a positive memory to the Rijksmuseum. But completely changed the way of traditional museums, because you give a lot of power to the community, and that's what was very difficult for museums so far. In my last clip, I have an example of another way of showing our collection in a completely unexpected way. I'm not sure if you have visited the Netherlands in this summer, but you could have seen this one.
Welcome to the Netherlands and welcome to Schiphol, where the Rijksmuseum presents the first ever baggage carousel exhibition. And we've already started. Rembrandt's most famous painting, The Night Watch, painted in 1642 and showing the might and strength of the Amsterdam elite in the 17th century.
Prachtig, heel mooi hoor.
You wouldn't think it, but this is actually, I'm going to even move the suitcase. This is actually a painting by Mondriaan. Vermeer, another icon of Dutch art. Terwijl je wacht, kun je genieten van kunst. En deze, die is van Karel Appel. En Karel Appel was helemaal geïnspireerd door kindertekeningen.
Oh ja.
And that brings us to the end of our very, very short art history class. Please come and see all these wonderful works of art at the Rijksmuseum in Amsterdam.
Okay. I'm not sure if this is how we think we can make the city of Amsterdam a little bit nicer.
I love it. Thank you so much. Big round of applause for Linda, everybody. We do have some time for questions.
Sure.
And you know, I want to lead by saying how amazing this is, and that actually my design studio created a similar experience based on Rijksstudio, but for Canadian artist Robert Bateman, who has we only digitized about 650 of his paintings. I can just imagine how long it took to create the digitizations. Do you have any sort of a memory of the scale of effort that it took to digitize your whole collection?
Yeah, we started with it, I guess, 10 years ago now, and we're not completely finished. We have around 350,000 objects on images online. So we have a few to go because our collection consists of 1 million. But we have the ambition to have it all finished by 2020. But it's a tremendous job, and you need to do it in a standardized way because we want to use it for multiple purposes. And if you want to produce an image that is good enough for a blow up in your exhibition from 5 meters or something, then you need to take it, do it very, very carefully. But it's a tremendous job. But we're still working on that.
What does that process look like? Because there are a lot of tech people here today that are probably curious about some of the technology that you're using to actually do that. Are they massive flatbed scanners? Are they huge sort of optic lenses? Like what are your people doing to make that actually happen?
Ooh, I'm not into all the technical stuff, but yeah, we do it by camera, and we make photos of different, and we stitch them together. And how it works online is that it's built up by pixels, so you don't download it just at once. So you can download it in a resolution of 4500 by 4500. And if you need a higher quality TIFF, for instance, you need to do a special request because otherwise our website wouldn't work anymore. But if you want to know more about the technical specifications, I can refer you to my colleagues. But you can also see it yourself because we have an API as well, so we disclose them for everybody.
Exciting. So one of the reluctances of Robert Bateman when we digitized his collection was that he didn't want people to download and steal his art and print it out, which is the complete opposite that Rijksmuseum wants to do. Was it purely inspired by the people and the culture and the lack of attendance to the museum, or to encourage that as part of the opening? What were some of the more of the motivations outside of just traditional art and exploring and expanding that audience?
Actually, it was quite of a process because the idea of disclosing them for everybody wasn't the first idea. But it gradually took shape. And it was before the sharing initiatives like Uber and Airbnb. So it was, and before a lot of museums did that. But we thought if you really want to be open, if we really want to be accessible for people, and if we really want to be inclusive, we have to do that. And why not? And we could do that because all the copyrights have been expired because the artists are, most of our artists are longer dead than 70 years. So why not combine it? And actually it was an idea and it grew bigger and bigger and bigger, and then it was this. And actually we're very happy with that because in a way we think it was also the best commercial decision we could have made because people are asking us, why don't you ask money for that? Why don't you ask a fee? And then we thought, then we wouldn't be this inclusive, and we have a barrier on this creativity, and that's far more important than the money we would getting a fee.
Makes total sense. The inclusion factor is an interesting one. As far as influencing folks to visit the museum, have you seen any increase in that based on this exposure to the world? Or was that, I'm assuming that may not have even been one of your goals, but was that something that you're measuring and tracking, and whether someone has experienced you through these offline channels or online channels, does that mean that you're going to put people into Rijksmuseum?
We can't. We sure had an increase of visits, but we can't relate it all to Rijksstudio. I would love to say that, but it's not. That's not possible because we don't know if people have bought a ticket because of their visit to Rijksstudio. So you can't say that. But what we can see is that more people know us, people like us, people are able to share. And what we can see is our web analytics, our website visits. Those have increased enormously. The average time visit has increased. And we see what pages are most frequently visited. So we can have a clue about that. But our main goal was our leveraging our brand and creating awareness. So not visiting per se. But we believe that if you... Oh, I see some other things here. But yeah, but our idea was that if you connect people with our collection, they will be triggered to visit the museum somewhere, anywhere.
One more from me before I open it to the audience. We were just talking about the experience economy before your talk, and I'm really happy that you talked about the contest. Are there any other sort of experiential events related to Rijksstudio that you're doing? Like, it comes to mind that you could have like a hackathon type day where you have a bunch of kids to try to make art. Are you doing anything else like that? Or are there any things for the future that you're considering to sort of evolve this idea?
We had a media lab in the museum, and we had some hackathons a few years ago. But it costs a lot of energy and a lot of people to organize that for a fairly small group. So we have this competition, so we are putting our money on that, literally and figuratively speaking. But we do facilitate and want to stimulate creativity. But we do that in our workshops or in our tours and in our regular program. So it's part of the museum program, but not as elaborate as we had before, because we had, and I started answering that we had a media lab, and that turned out too complex because the production process takes a lot of time, and it takes a lot of time to get creative. So when people made their design, they wanted to put it in the laser cutter or in the 3D printer or something, but then they had to wait too long. And the museum visit is 1 or 2 hours, right? So it's difficult to keep up the pace then.
I think Jonathan from our last panel will probably want to chat with you about bringing his event to Rijksmuseum. I think that'll be exciting. Wow. Well, I'll open up the floor to questions. If you have a question, please raise your hand really high, and we'll have Katrina run a mic over. Alex in the front row here.
Congratulations on amazing work. Very forward-looking, progressive, and extremely refreshing. Probably the most progressive ever. My question really is to do with digital engagement in the gallery. There's quite a famous, notorious, should I say, picture of 5 teenagers in the Rijksmuseum in front of the night watch, and they're all looking down at their mobile devices. That got a lot of backlash. Terrible teenagers, awful iPhones. What most people don't know is they're actually engaging with an app, and with the painting. They were testing it. Yes. Yeah.
On our request.
So they are engaging, but it looks really bad. Yeah. And I don't personally think that's something that can continue beyond the criticism. So how do you create a sense of, how do you utilize digital engagement in the gallery space without people looking down.
Yeah. But actually, that's exactly the reason we don't have much digital projects in the exhibition, in the galleries itself, because we want people to look at the real thing and want to look at the art itself. And that's why we invented the Start Drawing campaign, because when people are having a sketchbook in their hand, they are forced to look at the painting and then do something themselves, but they are not looking only at devices. And another, from a very practical point of view, is that a lot of digital devices, they are very vulnerable, so if they're broke, then you have not a good experience. But our vision is that we want to do a lot of digital outside the museum, whenever people are, and always in their lives, but in the galleries, we want to focus on the real deal.
That's great. Another question?
Hi, my name is Hans. I'm, besides the Shadow Factory, I'm also the curator for the Museum of St. John, Canada, which we are setting up over at Casa Loma. So it's a brand new museum that we are just launching and exploring and building out our business plans. I also have, by the way, John brought plates in my home, so Deaf Blues very proudly displayed in my kitchen and other places. Question for you around digital technologies and museums and traditionalism and conservatism. When you're dealing with a conservative membership or conservative donors and so forth, especially in the art history world and the museum world, and then you're suddenly shifting their mindset into a digital world, and you're actually working from digital going backwards. What are your thoughts on how do you convince a conservative population that they should make this shift and that it can be managed and it can be balanced? Like Alex said, you know, you've got digital phones and devices in the museum. How do you think one should make that case to the conservative population? And what experiences did you have at the Rijksmuseum trying to do that? 'Cause I'm sure you have some conservative Dutch folks who went, no, we can't do that.
Maybe. In the beginning, we had a few questions, but not more than that. And of course, there are people who wouldn't like that, but that's fine too. We believed in this concept, and we had some, and it's not related to donors or something, because they were quite happy actually. But we had some artists who were contemporary artists who were reluctant to be included in this Rijksstudio. So we asked them beforehand, do you want to be included, and do you agree that people are using your work? And you have to do that with those artists because there are copyrights on that. And some refused to go with us. And after a few years, they said, why isn't my work in this Rijksstudio? And then we said, well, you actually said yourself you didn't want to, but then it became a success and people would love to be there. So it takes a while. You have to be a bit patient. But we got a lot of positive remarks, and all the criticism was not very heavy.
Hi there. Digitizing collections is an expensive proposition with a lot of cost going in time and engineering to get that collection up there, store it, and give access to it. Was the commercialization of that an intent to recover some of that cost?
No, it wasn't. No, because the cost, we were having the cost anyway, because all the storage facilities and all the things we would have it anyway. But the digitization process, it was funded. That cost extra money, but we believe that it's one of our core activities. We have to do that because of our collection registration. And we have to do that because of when we use a piece of art in a publication or something. So we needed to do it anyway, and we only decided to make it available at a larger scale.
Okay, so in regards to the commercial products, have you seen commercial uses that you didn't acknowledge or didn't give permission to?
No, people can use our images completely free. They don't have to ask our permission. The only thing is that they can't use our brand name or our logo. But as long as people only use the image, it's fine by us. And when a project is really cool or really good or commercial, very, very interesting, we sometimes sell it in our shop. And we got a lot of requests of entrepreneurs who are thinking of working together, but it's too much. We can't engage with all those requests. So we're fine if people do that themselves, through their own channels.
Very inclusive. We have time for one more question over here.
I'm curious whether there have been other museums, to your knowledge, that have kind of followed in your footsteps when it comes to this ethos of inclusivity and making the images available and trying to engage the public. Have you seen? Could you maybe talk about a few examples if you do have them?
Yeah. Well, we're very proud that the Metropolitan, the Met, followed our example. So, but we're not the first. Actually, to be honest, we were not the first museum who did that, because the British Museum and some other museums already started with that same concept, although they didn't do that at this scale and not in this user-friendly interface. So that's where we differ, and some other museums do that, but they ask a small fee, or they only provide images for free in a low resolution. But we were the only one who did it this radically at this scale.
Wonderful. We do have time for one more question, though. If anyone from the audience, last chance. Okay, over here at the back.
Just curious, because it took 10 years to get to where you are. Did you find that technology improved over the past 10 years, or you've been using the same as what you had started with?
I'm not sure if I can answer that question, because we have a special dedicated team photographing the collection, and I don't think there are many changes, but there might be. And when it comes to the interface and disclosing it to the public, we have some changes and developments, like the example of doing it for a mobile app.
Okay.
But it's a kind of a straightforward technology. It's taking a picture, it's disclosing it, it's describing and tagging it, and that's it.
All right.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you very much, Linda Volkers.